Audience has any questions from our two speakers, you can ask.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for wonderful presentations. And regarding this net zero, refineries, even compared with agricultural sector and the power sector, much uses much cleaner fuels. But in agricultural sector and power sector, where 70% of the coal is utilized, there the production of carbon dioxide emissions are more. So we have to concentrate on converting the CO2 into much useful products. Then we will reach a little bit, in my opinion. My request to that Winch, that JM is doing anything in converting CO2 into much useful products rather than pumping into earth crust, because there is also a limitation.
Absolutely. Each part has its role to play. And so for blue hydrogen production, you have to store the CO2 in the ground, because when you're utilizing CO2, generally you need a hydrogen source. And so it doesn't make much sense to make hydrogen and CO2 and then use that CO2 with hydrogen made elsewhere in terms of CO2 footprint. But absolutely, CO2 utilization is key. And so we are looking at, or we do have technology in-house that converts CO2 into sustainable fuels, so sustainable aviation fuels. We have Fischer-Tropsch process, and also into bioplastics and other type of things done that. As well as that, we are also a world-leading licensor in methanol technology, and so a lot of other projects are looking at converting that CO2 into methanol and then displacing traditional grey methanol production. So that is another use for the CO2.
Thank you all. Any more questions? Thank you, Dominic, for a very good talk on this, the technologies, what GM is offering. Definitely, you said that your LCH process is very efficient. It produces lowest CO2 per unit of the hydrogen produced. Obviously, the CO2 is the monster. We have to capture it. And the question was exactly, is there any other way to really utilize CO2? To my mind, something was coming to when we talk about the refineries. We are now talking of the integrating the green energy into the refineries and petrochemicals. A lot has been discussed about integrating the refinery and petrochemical, but once we integrate the hydrogen generated from the green sources, and we also have the CO2 generated this way, which is difficult to capture. Can't we think about having the urea plant along it, the refinery petchem, and then urea also, because urea also needs CO2 and hydrogen is there. Only thing is that hydrogen should become the affordable by using these sources. Otherwise, refineries are always looking for the hydrogen, which is difficult to get. You have to spend a lot of energy in producing the hydrogen otherwise. So once that becomes the reality, like producing an affordable hydrogen, and you have the CO2 always available, probably we can look out for that option also. Any more questions? Otherwise, we would like to close this with some of my own suggestions I would like to share if the time permits. That we always look into the technologies to innovate and then come out with new technologies which are greener, more efficient, and then giving us the more value products in the value chain. On the engineering side, I think lot more can be done, though we have already matured to large extent. We need to continue innovating the designs, make them simpler, make them more energy efficient, and maybe we can think of something which is out of the box, like the previous session on the integration. We talked about the electrically heated reformers, which probably a few years back we could not think about it. Now, similarly, we can think of the having the electric heated the furnaces in our refineries. Obviously, there are some challenges because you cannot really heat crude directly, but we can have the indirect fired or electric heaters there in the refinery, which may actually make it more cleaner and more environmental friendly, because in the refineries, the heaters are the major polluters and more major energy consumers. So, and then one more thing is there's a lot of low-level energy which is wasted in atmosphere, which is also contributing to the global temperature rise. In a way, we need to contain that. So we need to find out some sources, some other streams to really capture that. We have certain limitations, but we can think beyond what is possible. Maybe using, like in recent refinery, we had used the hot oil to really capture the low-level energy. So that was for a very cold country, but probably that gave us some idea to really utilize hot oil. Why not utilize hot oil into the refineries and capture that low-level energy? Otherwise, we are wasting it. We are firing at some place and we are wasting something which probably we are finding it difficult to capture. So those are some of my thoughts. Probably we can work upon that in future if found worthwhile. With that, I don't want to talk much, and lunch is probably waiting outside. So the time to break the session. Thank you very much. Thanks a
Hello.
lot to the organizer.
Hello, I have one question. Yeah, from back side.
Sure, please.
Yeah, for Mark, I have one question regarding that.
Sir, request you to please identify yourself and
Yeah,
the organization.
I'm Narendra Agnihotri from HMEL. So I just want to ask regarding the question. You have mentioned the Johari windows also, and there is a publish things you have mentioned. Okay, you are providing the published knowledge, and then the picture will be more clear in this side. But there is always a gray. There is no black and white things. There is something is a gray picture also, because something is come out as a new, has a lot of challenges. So how your company can be provided as a clear picture, because the things are not so much clear. It is a gray painted. It is not black and white. It is a gray painted. So how the things will come out from your side?
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're questioning about the analogy of such a blurry picture moved on to the clear picture while it is not such a clear. I understand. A lot of times when we are facing a complicated technical problems, we think that we are finished, but we look at the box of the puzzles and there are still some puzzle pieces remaining. And that is just the nature of solving problems. And that is where the fun is. And that analogy, I don't want it to push it too far, but that analogy is really meant to what gives you a better position? What gives you what equips your team the most in terms of equipping them to solve a complicated problem? We can start with just an internal proprietary knowledge that your company has, which in my case, I couldn't find my subject matter experts when it comes to corrosion, connection backoffs. It's so hard to find because it's such a vast organization. Or I can move on to Google and a thesis that I found off of some PDF, or I can move on to a published knowledge which is peer-reviewed information. And that's what I'm saying. So it's not meant to, having a published, trusted digital knowledge solution, it's the key to everything. It is the starting point. Where I don't want it to displace the efforts of all the engineers doing all the lab testing and the field testing. So I hope that clarifies my intention.